Is your dog's food created to maximize your dog's quality of life or to extend the food's shelf life? It's time to make the switch to Sundays. Sundays was founded by a veterinarian and mom, Dr. Tori Waxman, who got tired of seeing so-called premium dog food full of fillers and synthetics. So she designed Sundays, air-dried real food made in a human-grade kitchen using the same ingredients and care you'd use to cook for yourself and your family. Every bite of Sundays is clean and made from real meat, fruits, and veggies, with no kibble. That means no weird ingredients you can't pronounce and no fillers. Because your dog deserves food made with care, not in the interest of cost-cutting. You just scoop and serve. No freezer, no thawing or prep, no mess. Just nutrient-rich, clean food that fuels their happiest, healthiest days. So you get more of them to share together. Go right now to sundaysfordogs.com/now30 and get 30% off your first 3 orders. Or you can use code NOW30 at checkout. That's 30% off your first order at sundaysfordogs.com/now30. Or use code NOW30 at checkout.
Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host Flavia Barris as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur.
Hey, Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today we get to speak with Sausha Davis. She is the founder of Sales Mama and a powerhouse sales mentor for ambitious women who want to grow multiple six-figure businesses without sacrificing their sanity or family. That is a running theme here for sure. A mom, entrepreneur, and unapologetic closer, Sausha teaches women how to lead with conviction, close with confidence, and scale with strategy. Her signature approach blends proven sales psychology with emotional intelligence, helping women sell like leaders, not hustlers. Welcome to the show, Sausha.
Thank you. I am very excited to be here.
It's fun to have you here because you're someone who has such an interesting backstory. You've had some really profound and big things happen in your life in your past that caused you to go down the journey that you've been on now. So tell us a little bit about that. I know some of it, trigger warning, some things happened to you that could even be disturbing to hear about, but I think it's a really important part of who you are. So let's dive into that.
Absolutely. So when people look at me today, they see this quote unquote successful woman, successful entrepreneur. And a lot of people make the assumption that things have been handed to me or that I was a trust fund baby or that, my husband is rich and yada, yada, yada. And all of those things could not be farther from the truth. And so taking you back to even early childhood, I grew up, and at the time I didn't know we were poor, but we were pretty poor. We lived on food stamps. Both my parents worked 2 jobs and we barely made ends meet. And so my parents ended up purchasing a farm in the Midwest, and shortly after they got divorced, my sister and I went back and forth because my parents had a very abusive relationship. And my mom went down a not so great path. That's her story to tell. And so my sister and I ended up growing up with my dad at a young age. So single dad taking care of 2 kids, and he had his own demons to fight. He, I would say, is undiagnosed bipolar, very narcissistic. And so the abuse patterns that had happened with my mom now were on me. And so my sister and I were also in and out of foster care, and the house that we lived in, again, we didn't know any better, but every winter we would chop firewood for like 2 months straight just so we had enough wood to heat our house through the winter. Yeah. And we didn't know any different. Like that was just normal for us, that we didn't have air conditioning. We didn't have a furnace. And that was how, I learned grit and hard work and determination. And, we had cows, we had pigs, we had goats, we had horses, we had all the things. And so we had to take care of so much at a very young age. But again, my dad had his own demons to fight. And so my sister and I also physically, mentally, emotionally abused. And so we also ended up in and out of foster care. And so I learned this mantra, and it was kind of my North Star for a very long time. Even to this day, it still kind of is. And so I would always ask myself, what would a normal person do in this situation? Because I had started to realize once I got into high school that what our life was not normal. And then I ended up graduating high school because I told myself, what would a normal person do? And I was actually one of the first in both sides of my family to graduate high school. Both of my parents dropped out. A lot of the family lineage had dropped out, never graduated. So I was one of the very first in both sides of my family to even graduate high school. So that was a big accomplishment on my part. And then after that, it was like, what would a normal person do? A normal person would go to college because that was the thing that everybody was doing at the time. So it was like, okay, I'll go to college. Went and got, just a regular 2-year associates. But then it's like, well, what do I do with this now? Well, you go and get a 4-year. So then I went and got a 4-year. But then after that, what do you do? Well, you go climb the corporate ladder because that's what the American dream is. You get married, you have kids, you do all of these things. And so I was just checking the boxes of what a normal person would do. And throughout that, I was starting to fight my own inner demons. And throughout that time, I was drinking heavily. I was binge drinking. I smoked cigarettes. I had done some drugs. I had actually been in and out of jail a couple of times. And the one experience that really woke me up is we were at a bar one night and waiting for our ride. The bar was closing, and I don't even remember really what happened. I was so intoxicated. And apparently I had said, I'll just take us home. And we're probably about 30 miles from home. Long story short, I had taken us down a gravel road and hit a ravine going about 50 or 60 miles an hour and flipped my SUV several times into a cornfield.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, no.
And the car was completely totaled. I mean, smashed like a pancake. And my friend wore glasses at the time, and her glasses were actually embedded in the windshield. It was just insane. And we walked away from it with just scrapes and bruises. But if you look at the car, nobody knows how we walked away with our lives. And so I carried so much guilt and shame and so many beliefs from that. And I was so destructive in my patterns leading up to that moment that I thought to myself, if I continue down this path, this is what will happen. I will kill myself or somebody else. And I decided that cannot happen. If I have this much anger and resentment and energy towards myself, what if I used that to heal myself and then put that in a positive direction? Because anger can really be that pivotal emotion for a lot of people. That's where people start to change. That's like right on the edge of hope. And so I started to learn about ways on how I could channel that energy in a different way and really start to uncover why I was feeling this way, why I had all of this traumatic, trauma responses. And that sent me down, an entirely different healing path. And at that time, I climbed again the corporate ladder, which got me into that corner office, got me into that high level sales and marketing. I started to better myself. I started to exercise. I started to work out. I started to listen to podcasts. I started to be more of a leader in the community. But then I started to feel really empty inside, like I really wasn't making an impact like I wanted to. I was working, 12, 14, 16-hour days, and it was like, is this really what life is? And I had gotten pregnant with my oldest daughter at the time, went on maternity leave, came back shortly after I'd put in my notice because I had decided that I was not going to work my life away to pay somebody else to raise my children. And at that moment is when I decided to leave my job and continue and pursue entrepreneurship, which had already been kind of planted that seed a few years prior when I started to really work on myself, more personal and professional development. But that was the moment that I decided, you know what, I'm going all in on this. Come hell or high water, I'm going to make this work for myself and for my family and for my freedom, because I am not going to work my life away to have somebody else tell me how to live my life anymore, because that's what got me in all of the messes I was in up until this point. So fast forward 10 years, now we're here at Sales Mama.
And I love when entrepreneurs start their entrepreneurial journey and their company and their venture already being either a parent or, you just have other responsibilities or loved ones or even just
Mm-hmm.
hobbies or something. Because I think you go into it much more intentionally to avoid burnout and to do it the right way. Because if
Yeah.
you head into entrepreneurship because you are leaving a job that doesn't allow you enough time to do the things you want to do to feel alive and to feel connected, if you don't have that guiding stone, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, if kind of younger in life, or, they don't really have a family yet, they're not married, they don't have kids, they haven't built up like hobbies or other commitments. And so they go into
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship and they work harder than anyone at any corporate job. I mean, they're burning
Mm-hmm.
midnight oil. They're, working 20 hours a day and sleeping for 2 or whatever. And they, because they're not building that company or that venture with the end in mind, which is, building something that gives you some flexibility and freedom and the ability to be the one to raise your kids or whatever it is for you, that's important. And for every person, it's different. So how did you do that? So you went into this as a mom
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to build something. But you knew that it was whatever you built had to give you more time with your family than you had at that corporate job. So how did you do that with intention?
So in the beginning, it was all just failing forward. I still think that entrepreneurship is just failing forward. And I love learning and I'm a lifelong learner. And so I really just dove in and got my feet wet. But I made sure that I was intentional with the boundaries around what I would do, what I wouldn't do, and when. And so I created these time blocks of when I would be on, when I would be off, when I would be doing family time. So I was very intentional about that. I'm very intentional about that today. But I'm also living an integrative life. I think there's so many people that are afraid to have their children see them work. And I'm not. My children have been, not that they're like the face of my company or anything, but they have seen me work and it's okay that they see me work. And it's actually really interesting because even now I'll take them to school and they'll be like, my mom works at Sales Mama. She owns Sales Mama. When I grow up, I want to work at
Oh,
Sales Mama. I'm like,
oh,
oh my
that's so
gosh.
cute.
So it's kind of funny to see what they see and how they see it and, what the things that they pick up just by watching me. And same thing with like exercising, like this morning I'm working out and, my 2-year-old comes in and she starts copying me and working out. So it's like, as they watch me work, they are picking up on my work habits and my work boundaries. And when I put my phone down and I tell them that my phone is a work tool, it is not something that I use for pleasure. And I think there's so many people out there that their tool is or their phone is an addiction for them. And for me, my phone is a device that helps me grow my business. And so I'm not afraid to put my phone on airplane mode and leave it in the kitchen or leave it in my office. And so I'm very intentional with those things and using do not disturb or airplane mode or shutting my computer off. And, there's nothing out there that is that big of an emergency that, somebody needs me at 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night. And if it is that big of an emergency, then, maybe call 911 and not me. So.
Well, I love naming companies' products. I think, and I mean, not everyone, some people struggle really hard. I'm the opposite. I usually think of the name before I really think of what I'm doing with it. I'm like, wow, that's like a great tagline or a great name. I'm excited about it. What can I build around that? So I almost go
Mhm.
backwards. But how did you come up with Sales Mama? What is Sales Mama? So fill us in on sort of the birth of, no pun intended, right? Because we're talking about mamas, about the
Oh,
birth of this whole idea.
totally pun intended.
Maybe a little.
So when I first started coaching and consulting, believe it or not, I thought I wanted to be a life and health coach. I was like really into life and health at that time because I was really focused on like facing my inner demons and bettering myself. And so I did that for a very short time. I was successful at it. I want to say I made like looking back, maybe 60 or 80,000 that first year just in life or health coaching, and which I didn't think was that much. But now knowing what I know now, like that's actually a pretty solid income for a life and health coach in their first year. So, did pretty well at that. And so it was people coming to me and saying, how did you build your business? How did you build your business? And so very quickly I shifted back into, the business coaching and consulting, sales and marketing, getting right back into the things that I do so well. And that's kind of the stuff that lights me up. I love talking big vision and strategy and, the whole process and the blocks that keep us from doing the things. And so that's really where my focus shifted. And so I operated as, just Sausha Davis Consulting for a few years. And I had two legs of the business. I had one leg where I did more consulting and training teams and, doing high level sales, calls and things like that for 7 and 8 figure plus businesses. And then I had more coaching side for those who were, maybe solopreneurs who were just getting started, who, were looking to grow to a 6-figure business or a multiple 6-figure business, who are just looking to, make their first hire. And so I had two legs of the business. And so on the consulting side, I had one particular company that I was working with, and it started to not go so well. And the reason for this was I sell in a very relationship connection based way, which we'll get into maybe some of my methods here in a bit. But the way that they kept telling me that I needed to sell was very masculine and outdated, very pushy, very 80s, 90s, old insurance type of way of selling. And I was not about that life anymore. I had been trained that way, and it does not work in today's world. It does not work. And that's what you'll really see a lot is this very bro way of sales. And I don't align with that. And so we kind of butted heads a little bit. And for lack of a better phrase, he made me feel like an idiot for believing in the methods that I believed in. And so we parted ways, and I was furious about the whole interaction. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to go find a female mentor. I'm going to find a female sales mentor, and I'm going to really do this and blah, 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 blah. So then I went on the hunt for a female sales mentor, found this gal, and she was all about feminine sales. Get on the phone with her, have a conversation. We get to the end, and she tells me that, to be honest, I don't think you're ever going to be successful because you're still prioritizing your family. And if you're not serious about growing your business, you're never going to hit the level of blah, 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 blah. So she basically told me because my family was a priority. And mind you, I found out later that she did not have children. So I'm like, well, you don't get it. And so this happened within a week. And so I had one person, basically telling me that I'm an idiot. And then another person telling me that because I'm a mom, that I won't be successful. And so I'm not gonna cuss. I would normally like cuss right here, but I was basically like, screw you, watch me. And that's how Sales Mama came about, because I wanted to do sales my way, and I wanted an emphasis on motherhood or parenting in general, because I, as a sales professional for the past 20 years, if I'm encountering this as a sales professional, I can't imagine what others are butting up against as first-time entrepreneurs or learning about sales the first time, and the pressure they're getting, or the, grief, or the just the pushback that they're getting, or making them feel stupid for thinking this way or doing things this way. And so I said, nope, never again. And that's how Sales Mama was born. It was literally born out of spite. I'm a lot less spiteful, a few years in. The mission and the message is still very similar. I still want to help and grow and big vision, but it was born that week. I was raging. I was on fire.
I love it. And I mean that almost seems like more of a catalyst than your original, like, hey, I'm spending, 12 hours a day at the office. I want to be with my family. That was like a pull to your family, your loved ones. But I feel
Mhm.
like this one was like rocket fuel under you. Like
Oh
this
yeah. It
catapulted
was
you.
it was definitely like a match under my ass, and it like took things to a next level. Like it reignited everything within me. It was a big push to not go back to my corporate job. I mean, like everything within me was like, don't go back, but I went back for a few months and then left and then just told myself like you're not going back. And so I made sure that that didn't happen. But then it was, a few years goes by and then this happens and it just reignited everything within me. And it just took, it really made the brand what it is, the company what it is. And it just really took things, skyrocketed everything to a new level. So,
Yeah, I mean, even your branding is a reflection of that woman throwing down the gauntlet and telling you
mhm.
you can't be successful and be like a committed mom. It's just, mutually exclusive. And I just love that you're like, hold my beer and watch me.
Exactly.
And you named and your program is Sales Mama. So tell us about that. Like you said, you'd go into your sort of techniques and your philosophy about sales a little bit. So without going into too much detail, I mean, we don't have, I mean, I bet you could talk for 8 hours in a row about sales, but
Oh,
what are
yeah.
some of the kind of overarching, major sales philosophies or concepts that you teach in Sales Mama?
Yeah, so my signature program is Sales Mama School, and it very much is a sales training and education program. So it's not just throwing a script at you and being like, see you later. Like, I actually want you to learn the sales psychology and implement it and why people make decisions so that you really understand it. Most people just throw a sales script at somebody and say, this is it. I really want people to understand the process of sales and that sales is actually a service because you're solving a problem for somebody. That is the exchange of a sale. Is somebody has a problem, you have a solution, and by the act of exchanging money, that is a sale. Okay. And so some of the philosophies that I teach within Sales Mama School is I have a personality based training method. And so I have a little bit different variation than the one that I teach. But in a nutshell, it is the GEMS method by Danny Johnson. So you guys can look this up. But basically, it is buyer personality types. And so a lot of people will teach just one method, which is a very black and white kind of strategic way of thinking. And I have found that, 75% of people don't think that way. A lot of people are emotional buyers. And so that analytical way of thinking doesn't necessarily work on the rest of the people in the world. And so to break down the four different categories very quickly, we have a ruby, we have a sapphire, we have an emerald, and we have a pearl. And so a ruby is going to be a very direct individual. They're going to be like, no BS. What's the results? What's the ROI? An emerald is going to be very stats, very data driven. They want to know your success rate, your failure rate. And that's what most people teach on is like that type, ruby and emerald. But then we have two other types. We have a sapphire, which is going to be your big vision. They want to know like who else is in the room. They're motivated by fast action bonuses. You have to match their energy. You have to get excited. And then the last one is a pearl. And they are the people who want to save the world, save the whales. They're the ones who usually, you know, do the nonprofits and the charities. And you can't put a lot of pressure on them to make a decision right away. You have to go with them. You have to be empathetic with them. And they tend to be a little bit slower decision makers. And they have to have, you have to give them borrowed belief, and they have to have a lot of trust in you. And so each of these people buy a little bit differently. And if you are selling in a way that does not align with their buyer personality, they're going to be not trusting you. They might think you're an idiot. They're going to ghost you completely. And so this is what happens when people say, oh my gosh, nobody's buying. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. You are probably just selling to people in how you think you should sell to people, or you're following some very generic script and not tailoring your stuff to what your buyers actually want and need to hear. And so that's one thing that I teach on. And then I also teach on what marketing is and what marketing isn't, because people always get sales and marketing confused. And so there is a very big difference between sales and marketing. Marketing is a one to many, sales is a one to one. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that because we could get into a whole nother conversation on that. And then I also teach what funnels are, what lead magnets are, what opt-ins, how to get in front of the right people, how to run ads. So basically everything from lead to client and the client journey.
That is amazing and very complete. Give us a case study, and it can be, you can anonymize it, because I'm sure you've had businesses where you've come in and you've really transformed the way that they advertise or market. And or if you have permission from the student, feel free to plug them. I mean, by all means. But I'm just curious to see it in action. Like where have you seen that this makes a huge difference in outcomes in a short period of time for someone?
Yeah. So, for example, I worked with a gal who was a realtor. She did real estate and real estate investing. And this is a little bit longer turnaround, but within 6 weeks, she actually started closing. She was closing one deal per week, and within 6 weeks, started closing 3 deals per week. So she went from about a $10,000 month to a $20,000 to $40,000 month just within a few months by implementing a lot of these strategies. And the reason that that happened was she is a Ruby Emerald personality. So she's very direct and very analytical, but the people that she was selling to were very Pearl personalities. So she had to slow down her entire way of talking to people and build a lot of trust and connection. And once she started to do that, she closed almost every deal that she started, like that she talked to. So that's one example. And she was on the East Coast. She was over near like the Boston area. So there's a lot of what she says, Ruby personalities. So teaching her how to talk to people in a whole new way. That one is a big one. Another entirely different business. I worked with an equestrian trainer and breeder, and she sells foals, colts, yearlings. And so previously to working with me, she had only sold about a half a dozen colts a year. And so when we started to work together, we sold out of her colts within 3 months. And she had never done that before. And she had a $50,000 month the second month that we worked together. And by month 3, she had sold out of all of the available horses that she had. She had over $100,000 in sales just in the matter of the few months that we had worked together because of the implementation that she had done and how she was talking to people and how she was following up with people and how she was capturing the leads and where she was putting them and all of that. So that was a really good one too. And then an entirely another business would be a small boutique. She does candles and self-care stuff. When she came to me, she was doing mostly like $3,000 to $5,000 a month, a lot of direct to consumer, a little bit of farmers markets here and there. One thing that we wanted to do was get her in more boutiques and do more wholesale so that she wasn't doing so many B2C type of stuff, like one-to-one type of stuff. And so one thing that we did was tapped into that B2B market. And not kidding, by month 3, she was at $20,000 to $25,000 months. And so by doing that too, not only did we broaden her reach and her email list and all of this, now her B2C sales have also skyrocketed. And there has been a couple of times where she has only gone to these weekend events, like weekend, what do you call them? They're kind of like farmers markets. I can't remember what you call them. But anyways.
A fair, like a craft fair?
Yeah, kind of like a craft fair. Exactly. Like these event
Festivals
fairs.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she has been one of the top sellers. Like there was one time she went to one of them and she made like $18,000 just in the 3 days of there. Like she actually sold out on the second day, had to go home and make more product for day 3. So that's another one. So those are just a few different, there's a service-based one, there's, a livestock-based one, and then a product-based one. But I have tons of stories, but those are just a few different categories.
Amazing. And how do people get in touch with you? So if they want to learn more about the program, Sales Mama itself, your journey, where would they go to connect?
So they can connect with me. They can listen to the podcast. I have Sales Mama podcast. I'm always giving, free tidbits over there. And then you can search for me on just about any platform. I'm pretty active over on Instagram, Sales Mama School or Sausha.Davis. I'm on YouTube, Sales Mama School, LinkedIn, TikTok, Substack, anywhere you could possibly search. I'm probably there.
Amazing. Sausha, it's been so great talking to you, just mom to mom. I mean, I'm a mama too. And I just love your whole story. And I'm so, so glad that you walked away from that terrible accident because, the world is a better place with you in it. You've helped so many people accomplish their dreams and grow their businesses and learn marketing the right way. So thank you for all that you do in the world.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and if you leave a review on iTunes, I promise I will read every single review. If you know someone who makes a full-time living from part-time work, and maybe this is you, please visit lifestylesolopreneur.com to nominate a guest or to nominate yourself. Because remember this, money doesn't buy happiness. But money in the hands of a happy person, there is no greater tool.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Get Shift Done program. It's a lifestyle-changing online class to help you define your business and lifestyle ambitions and to set goals in a way you've never experienced before. This class will 10x your daily productivity with methods that will blow your mind. And if you use a coupon code podcast, the class tuition is 99% off. Visit GetShiftDone.com to enroll today.